The ice shattered upwards. A skeletal hand, draped in wet red velvet, punched through the surface and grabbed Lucas by the ankle. He didn't scream, he just gasped as the freezing water hit him.
Sarah and Emily grabbed his arms, digging their heels into the slick surface. It was a tug of war with a demon. The holiday spirit turned into a drowning force. They pulled until their shoulders popped.
With a final guttural heave, they yanked Lucas onto the solid ice. The glove of the entity slid off his boot, leaving behind deep scratches that smoked in the cold air. They scrambled to the far bank, collapsing in the snow. They were alive, but the night was far from over. The list demanded 4 souls, and it had only claimed 1 so far. They needed shelter. The old church on the hill, consecrated ground. If anything could stop a demon of the solstice, it would be the weight of holy stone. They dragged Lucas up the slope. The church doors were heavy oak, unlocked but stiff with age. They threw themselves inside, slamming the doors and sliding the heavy iron bolt home. The silence of the sanctuary was deafening. Lucas was shivering violently, hyperthermia setting in. Sarah tore strips from the altar cloth to bind his leg. It felt sacrilegious, but survival has no religion. Then the knocking started. Gentle at first, rhythmic, polite. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause. It was mocking them. It knew they were inside. "Open up," a voice whispered from the other side. It sounded like Mike. "Guys, it's me! I got away! Please, it's cold!" The voice was perfect. Too perfect. Sarah pulled Emily back. "Mike is dead," she hissed. "That thing, it wears voices like it wears robes." The knocking stopped abruptly. Then came the sound of glass breaking high above. They looked up. The stained glass window, the depiction of the Nativity, shattered inwards. A red-robed figure crouched on the sill. The Dark Claus landed with a heavy thud that cracked the stone floor. He stood up, 7 feet tall, his face a mask of frozen flesh and white beard matted with soot. He held a sack that dripped. They scrambled toward the sacristy, the back exit, but the pews began to move. The wood warped and twisted, blocking the aisle, forcing them into the open center. Lucas fell. His injured leg gave out. He looked up at Sarah and Emily. "Go!" he screamed. "He only needs 4. Maybe 2 is enough to satisfy the hunger."
Sarah hesitated, but Emily dragged her through the sacristy door. The last thing they heard was the sound of a zipper being opened and Lucas screaming, I'm sorry for everything."
They burst out into the graveyard behind the church. The storm had stopped. The moon was full and blindingly bright. It was the eye of the storm, a moment of false peace. Sarah fell to her knees, sobbing. 2 of them were gone. The list had been half filled. "Why us?" she cried. "We just toilet papered a house. We didn't kill anyone." Emily grabbed Sarah's shoulders. "It's not about the crime, Sarah. It's about the belief. We stopped believing in the good, so the bad took over. We have to survive until sunrise. That's the rule."
They heard the church door crash open behind them. The beast was done with his meal. He stood on the steps, sniffing the air. He didn't run, he stalked. They hid behind a large mausoleum. The snow crunched under the monster's boots. Heavy, wet steps. Crunch, crunch. He was playing with them. Sarah looked at the mausoleum door. It was slightly ajar. It was the family tomb of the Blackwoods, the town founders. "In here," she mouthed. The creak was like a gunshot in the silent night. The footsteps stopped. Then a low, rumbling voice spoke, vibrating through the ground itself. "I see you." They squeezed inside the crypt and pushed the stone slab shut just as a heavy chain smashed against the outside. Dust rained down on them. They were trapped in the dark with the dead. Outside, the scratching began, not on the door, but on the roof. Then on the sides, he was testing the structure, looking for a weakness. The ancient stone held, but for how long?
Emily noticed something on the central sarcophagus. An inscription. "The light returns only to those who give." A riddle or a literal instruction?
"To those who give," Sarah whispered. She reached into her pocket. She had stolen a silver locket from her sister earlier that day, the act that likely put her on the list. The roof of the crypt began to crack. A massive claw pierced through the stone. Sunlight was hours away. They had minutes. "We have to give it back," Emily cried. "Not to him, to the dead." It was insane, but magic operates on intent. Sarah placed the locket on the sarcophagus of the founder.
The crypt didn't just light up. It flared with a blinding, holy brilliance. The shadows in the corners screamed and dissolved. The claw retracted with a hiss of burning flesh. Silence returned. But this time, it wasn't the silence of a predator. It was the silence of protection. The light faded to a warm glow, holding the darkness at bay. They waited. Hours passed. The cold seeped in, but the monster did not return. And then, through the hole in the roof, the sky began to turn a bruised purple. Dawn. They pushed the stone door open. The graveyard was empty. The snow was pristine, covering the tracks of the night's horror. It was as if nothing had happened. But it had happened. They found Lucas's sneaker near the creek. They found Mike's hat in the basement. The town called it a tragedy, a runaway pact gone wrong.
Sarah and Emily never spoke of the Dark Claus. Who would believe them? But every Christmas Eve they don't celebrate. They sit in a room with the lights on, and they give. They donate to every charity. They volunteer at every shelter, not out of kindness, but out of fear, because they know the list is always being updated.
So be good, for goodness sake. Because in the town of Blackwood, and perhaps in yours too, the cold doesn't just ruin your stocking. It burns the house down. The naughty list isn't just a list in Blackwood, it's a hunting warrant. I want to hear from you. Which moment in the story gave you the most chills? Was it the sound of the chains in the basement, the hand reaching through the frozen creek, or the final sacrifice in the crypt? Also, if the Dark Claus looked at your record today, would your name be on that glowing scroll? Drop a Santa if you think you're safe, or a dark moon if you know you're in trouble. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that notification button so you will be the first to be informed when next we drop a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.